What up, World Wair18? Back at it again. Welcome to the episode. Thank you guys for listening. Even if nobody's listening, I'm still doing this shit. This is episode 4 of my newly minted podcast. Episode 2, I talked about the NBA Finals, which got me thinking about one of my all-time favorite basketball documentaries. Actually, I think it's one of the greatest sports documentaries ever. Maybe just a regular documentary, actually. It's actually one of the greatest regular documentaries of all time. I watch it at least 2 times a year. I literally just finished watching it last night again. Hoop Dreams. If you guys haven't heard of Hoop Dreams, it was like Real World before Real World came out. It was like reality TV before it became big. The movie was brilliantly made. I don't know how they picked the right kids to do this show on. I don't know if they went through a bunch of kids and found those things and their story was good, but I doubt that happened because I watched a documentary on the making of Hoop Dreams. So they found these 2 kids from the west side of Chicago. First of all, I love this movie because I know the area. I was born on the west side of Chicago. My mom went to Marshall High School, the same school that Arthur Agee went to. And I know that area very well. When I went home last year, I showed my girl and my youngest kids that part of Chicago. And it literally still looks the same, which is fucking crazy. So I know that area. So that's one of the main reasons why I like this movie, because it shows Chicago in all its glory and all its downfalls, I guess you could say. The area is not a good area, but this movie is fucking amazing. And the fact that they chose the right 2 kids to follow for 4 years of their life, from I think 8th grade through high school and then a little bit of college, was amazing. And the way the story unfolded, it was like 2 totally different stories, and it was so well put together. And you know how most scripted TV shows are today? You can tell none of this was scripted. You can tell all of it was like true emotion. These kids weren't actors. They weren't trying to be actors. They were just being themselves. And then all the raw footage they got was so fucking amazing. The story is in the title. 2 kids from Chicago, growing up in poverty. Father barely in either of their lives. One more than other, but he wasn't even a great role model to like live your life after. I think it mirrored my life in some ways, coming from Chicago, not having a father, trying to get out of poverty. I didn't play basketball or nothing like that, so that part is not it. But it's the same fucking struggle that a lot of black kids who grew up in Chicago have to go through. You either an athlete or you try to figure something else out. And a lot of people don't figure out the right things to do, which fucking sucks. And it shows those struggles too with the kids going through school and the gangbangers helping them out, giving them shoes and stuff because they fucking hoop or whatever.
Hey, look at that Georgetown coat, man. I might get that drink. Dang. Pocket on the side. Yeah, that's the one I'll tell you about. How much? $70, even, no tax. Some of the drug pushers in the neighborhood, they'll give us money to tell us go shop and go get you something. They think if we play basketball, they can give us stuff and keep our career going. So that's how we really keep up with the style.
I think that's real life situation. I think this movie came out in like 1989, 1990, something like that. Late 80s, early 90s. That's what I'm going to talk about in this episode. It's just one of the most fascinating, well thought out movies that I've ever seen. And this, like I said, this came out before the reality TV boom. Those guys probably ushered in reality TV because this movie was unbelievable. I just looked at my notes. The movie was released in 1994, so my bad, it wasn't 89. So it was released in 94. I was 14 years old when it came out. But it chronicles 5 years, so that had to be 89 to 94. something like that, early 80s, late 90s. I followed two high school kids, Arthur Agee and William Gates, from childhood through high school. It shows their real successes, their failures, their struggles, and their real families, which I thoroughly enjoyed because there was more than just the A and B story. There was a C and D story. The C story was his William Gates' brother and his promise of being a basketball, but he ended up not panning out. It shows Arthur Agee's mother and his father, their relationship and what they went through. And I thought that whole family dynamic made the movie as great as it is, because it's not always about the two kids that want to be pros. It's about the family too. The family comes along with the journey, and I love the way that they showed the family's journey as well as theirs. Growing up in the inner city, if you play sports as a black kid, especially in the late 80s, early 90s, they made it seem like the only way to get out of the hood or your neighborhood is to play sports. And that's pretty much what this movie is showing you. Oh my God, it shows that these kids have these huge dreams, but only like 1%, the top 1% of the 1% make it to the NBA. You have to be better than the best player. If you think about it, not even some of the top players, like players of the year and fucking shit like that, some of them don't even make it to the NBA. And if they do, it's a short time. So the dream to go to the NBA is really a fucking, like, hitting the lottery. And they present this to these kids, pushing these dreams on them, when in all reality, a lot of them will never make it to the NBA. Everybody compared William Gates to Isaiah Thomas, and he went to that school thinking he was going to be the next Isaiah Thomas.
Think I may have seen the next Isaiah Thomas. Kid named William Gates. Put it in your memory bank. William Gates.
Isaiah Thomas is a one of one. Like, he was an all-star NBA champion, and you're pushing that on these kids. It's fucking crazy. The system sells these kids a dream. It tells them if you're good enough, basketball can save your fucking family. And that's something hard to push on a kid, especially coming from those situations, the west side of Chicago, gang violence and fucking no money, being on welfare. That shit was crazy. The question I want to ask, how many talented players get left behind because they're not the next Michael Jordan or Isaiah Thomas? And that's where Hoop Dreams becomes uncomfortable, because it starts exposing the business side of youth basketball. And this is before the NIL deals and all that other bullshit. I think most of these people got the money on the side, like Chris Webber got his little change for going to Michigan on the side and shit. They really start looking for these kids super young, even back in the 80s. And in this movie, they show this scout like going to a fucking playground and watching these little kids play.
I'm off to Central and the Congress Expressway, a park over there where there's some pretty talented young men.
Earl Smith works downtown as an insurance executive. On weekends, he's an unofficial talent scout for several area high schools.
This is what you call beating the bushes. This is the job of most of your freshman coaches and guys like me who played a little bit of the game, who loves trying to help young people on the road to success.
Today, Earl spots Arthur Agee, who just graduated from grammar school.
He's got to take his first step. Not seen in about 5 years. His first step. I will bet you a steak dinner in 4 years you'll be hearing from him. I don't even know anything about him.
And then they go to the parents' house and sell them on going to a fucking school like 2 hours away to get an education to play basketball. I thought that was so bad because they show Arthur Agee taking buses and trains just to get to school every fucking morning. I know as a kid, my school was right around the corner, and I was fucking mad as fuck to walk to school. This motherfucker at 14 years old had to take 3 buses, 2 trains just to get to fucking school every fucking morning and take it back. That is crazy. And go to practice after school. Like, he probably wouldn't get home until like 8 o'clock at night. And as a kid, that's fucking terrible. So they exploit these kids so much I'm not sure how it really goes today. I'm pretty sure it's even bigger business today than it was back then. They tell the story of Arthur Agee and William Gates. They get recruited to go to school that Isaiah Thomas went to. And as a kid watching this movie, I immediately hated the coach. I thought he was one of the most exploitive coaches I've ever seen for a high school program. He was all about winning. You can tell he didn't really care about none of these fucking kids. You take these kids from the ghetto, and if they're not good enough, you kick them to the fucking curb. And that's what happened with Arthur Agee. So he gets accepted to this program, right? He gets a partial scholarship. And William Gates gets a partial scholarship too. But Arthur Agee is not going to make the varsity team as a freshman. William Gates makes the varsity team as a freshman. And they see that Arthur Agee is not, the coach even said, you're not growing. When are you going to get taller? Like, how the fuck? He doesn't have control of that. But they see the potential in him. They just don't have the time to invest the time in getting him better. And my point is, he's going to school. He's supposed to be going to school to learn. And this coach only cares about his athletic abilities. The kids went to that school. They said they had like a second grade reading level at 14. That's fucking sad. So when they realized that Agee wasn't going to be what they thought he was going to be, they kicked that motherfucker out, sent him to Marshall, which is fucked up. And then they left him with the fucking bill. So they wouldn't even give him his transcripts after they kicked him out when they promised him a tuition.
If he was going out there and he was playing like they had predicted him to play, he wouldn't be at Marshall. Economics wouldn't have had anything to do with him not being in St. Joe. Somebody would have made some kind of arrangement and the kid would have still been there. He's not making it like they thought he was going to make it on the basketball court, so he's not there. Simple as that. And it doesn't take no brilliant person to figure that out.
But on the other hand, William Gates was a superstar. They would talk about him on local TV. He was branded as the next Isaiah Thomas. And when he had financial issues, they found a family to take care of him, to pay for his scholarship. They even gave him a summer job.
It really touched a soft spot in my heart, and so I decided that my husband and I would participate on a personal basis. William was selected as the kid that was able to go to school based on our contribution.
With continuing support from Patricia Weir, William is assured that his entire education at St. Joe's will be free.
So it's all about what you can do for the school. Agee wasn't considered a phenomenon anymore, so they let him go, stuck him with the bill, didn't even attempt to help him get his education, kicked him to the curb pretty much, sent him to a Chicago public school in the west side of Chicago.
And comparing Marshall High School to St. Joseph, I don't think that there's any comparison. People can afford to send their children there. They can afford to put money into the school. Once they walk in those doors, they walk in there to get that diploma and to go on to college. Whereas our students, if they get out of high school, a lot of them, it's an accomplishment.
When you stop being an investment and they don't think you're going to get them where they thought you were going to get them, they just throw you in the trash. And that's sad, and it's really fucked up, and I think it's because of the fucking coach, because he's a fucking dick. That whole situation just like fucked me up for real watching it, because it's so sad. This kid is reading on a second grade level. He has a chance to go to a good school and better himself, and because he's not living up to your standards in basketball, you kick him to the curb. And the other kid, because he was better, you give him an opportunity to get a good education because he can help your school win. I didn't like it, and I didn't like the coach. The way he treated William Gates throughout his 4 years, it was just fucking terrible. Always comparing him to Isaiah Thomas, and like pretty much putting him down for not getting as far as Isaiah did. It was just not a good look for a grown man when these kids' future is on the line. I really didn't like it.
Basketball has to be second to your academics. If you don't get your grades, you're not going to play. If you work hard at the grades, and if you work hard at basketball, then I would be able to help you as far as going to college. And I guarantee this. I can't promise you where you're going to go and if you're going to be a star, but I guarantee that I would help you get into the school that would be best for you. I'm making a commitment to you if you make a commitment to being part of this kind of a program.
So William Gates, like I said, was supposed to be the next Isaiah Thomas. So if you guys didn't know, Isaiah Thomas is from the west side of Chicago. He went to Detroit, played for the Pistons, won 2 championships, was an all-star. He's in the Hall of Fame. He's big in Chicago. He was huge. He's actually my favorite point guard of all time. A lot of people say Magic Johnson, but I love Isaiah Thomas. He was Kyrie Irving before Kyrie Irving, in my opinion. And I love Isaiah Thomas. So this kid, William Gates, was supposed to be that. But he had constant pressure. Everybody expected greatness. There's even a point in the documentary where he says, everybody always says, look out for me when you make it to the NBA. You got me when you go to the NBA, right? And then he says, who's going to look out for me when I don't make it? I thought that was fucking amazing as a 15-year-old to say something like that.
That's why when somebody say, man, you know, when you get to the NBA, don't forget about me and all that stuff, I should say to them, well, if I don't make it, but you don't forget about me.
And it's true. People want to hop on your fucking wagon when you're doing good and you have those expectations of making it to the NBA. But as soon as you don't make it, everybody's out the fucking door. And it's sad, but that's the way society is. So while he's in school, he had the knee injury that fucked him up. They went to fucking some janky-ass doctors, and they didn't fix his knee the right way. So his I think his uncle or cousin took it to the Bulls trainer, and he finally got it fixed. But after that, there was no coming back because he wasted a whole year of eligibility rehabbing the knee the first time after the fucking terrible surgery. They just did that kid so wrong, and I don't know if he could have been the next Isaiah Thomas, but if he would have had a good surgery to begin with, I think his trajectory would have changed. He had family expectations, the ACT scores, because he couldn't get the highest score to get the test. They said he had to take it 5 times or some shit like that. Everyone expected greatness. There was so much pressure on this kid, and he had to get his family out the fucking hood. And I can't imagine being that young and having all that fucking pressure on you. All right, so in this, I'm going to talk about the toughest part of the movie, in my opinion, the family section. So, Arthur Agee, you know what I liked about this documentary also, they had situations where the lights went out in their house, they had no money, and I'm watching the documentary, and I'm like, why don't these motherfuckers that's filming them help them out? But I think that's what made it more real, because I don't think the people making the documentary had that much money anyway. And I think that they wanted to actually show the struggle, what people actually go through. So I like that they did that, but I don't like that they did that at the same time. Because when I was growing up, we went through a time where we didn't have no lights, and that shit fucking sucked. So Agee's family, he had his mother and his father. His mother is struggling with domestic abuse because his father hits her sometimes. They showed that. They had hardships. He couldn't get a job. She wasn't really working. They ended up getting on welfare. So their family struggle was real. The father was on drugs. They even show a scene where he goes to the back and gets drugs.
Arthur's dad shows up. These days, Arthur rarely sees him.
Watch this. Man, I'll see you later on, okay?
Increasingly, this playground court has become a place to buy and sell drugs.
They were literally fighting, trying to survive in the city of Chicago while also trying to get their kid to the NBA. It's fucking crazy. And then William's family, you got his brother who was supposedly like the next big thing when he was in high school, and he ended up going to Central Florida and flaming out because he was one of those guys that had it all. He was so good at basketball, but he thought that he couldn't, he thought that he didn't have to follow the rules.
Curtis was named Player of the Decade at Colby Junior College, but he also developed a reputation for being uncoachable.
Curtis' idea of being real good is you don't follow the rules, you do what you want to do.
Curtis finally signed at the University of Central Florida, but he didn't get along with the coach and rarely played.
Even if he didn't play ball, it was a nice university, he could have finished school, but he couldn't handle it.
and he would train his brother because he wanted his brother to make it so bad because he didn't make it. And his story is really sad because it shows him doing jobs that he's like, I'm a loser. I never amounted to anything. I just want him to succeed. And it shows him trying to get a job. He's like, I can't even get a job for $7 an hour. And it's just a sad story that people go through that, and you put in all your hope on a 15-year-old boy when he had a chance to do it himself. So he's pushing him the whole movie to become great. While watching this movie, at the halfway point of the movie, you're not rooting for the basketball players anymore. You're rooting for the people because they become like a part of you. You want them to, not watching it for the first time and not knowing exactly what happened, you want them to make it. Like, you go through all this trouble and you want these kids to do something with their lives. You want them to fucking make it to the NBA and shit. So the first half of the movie was literally William Gates' story, telling his rise. The second half of the movie, they switch it up on you. They talk about Arthur Agee and his rise to superstardom. He goes to the public school. He's not doing well in school, and he rebuilds himself. He makes the basketball team at Marshall. He becomes a starter at point guard. And the thing that they both wanted at the beginning of the movie, to go downstate, the thing that Coach Pinator for St. Joseph's pushed them to go downstate, Arthur Agee does it. He takes a team in Marshall who was unranked all the way downstate. They win the city championship. It's a whole big deal. St. Joseph's can't even get out the fucking second round of the playoffs. So their season comes to an end, and it all culminates with William Gates coming to the game late. I guess his uncle got him to the game late, and Pinator sits him for the first half. And by the time he gets to the game, it's already too late. They can't make a run to win the game. And then he basically blamed the 4 years of them struggling on Arthur at the end of the movie, which I fucking hated. But back to Arthur Agee, his story, they beat some of the best schools in Chicago to win the city championship, and they go downstate. Arthur Agee's story becomes the story of resilience. They kicked me out of this school, and now I'm going downstate to rub it in his face. And then when they're downstate, you can see the fucking Pinator in the stands watching them, and he looks fucking dumbfounded because like he had both of them at the same time. He could have fucking maybe went downstate and won a city championship with both of those kids. And that's what Agee tells William Gates. He's like, it was supposed to be us, but I'll do it for both of us. He said that he was gonna win for both of them, which is fucking honorable thing. He knew this kid from the time he was 14. They had these dreams of playing together, and it never came to fruition because the school gave up on him. And he still wants to have William a part of this run that he has. I thought that was an awesome part of the movie. That really like touched me. I was like, damn, kids don't really think like that. He was like 17 at the time. Kids don't really think like that. And I thought that was very like grown of him to have William Gates live through him.
The Commandos have struck. 37-36 Marshall leading the stadium. Chicago Marshall has exploded.
I always dreamed of like me and William taking them downstate together. When I was at St. Joseph, maybe we could have went downstate or maybe we couldn't, but we did when I'm at Marshall.
So, I forgot to say, throughout the movie, William Gates is taking ACT and he finally passed, and he goes to Marquette, and Marquette says, I don't think this ever happens anymore. Even if you get hurt, you can have a full scholarship to our school. Even if you never play a day of basketball again and get hurt, you can have a full scholarship. And they honored that because I guess at the end of the movie they show a recap of what happened, and he ends up dropping out of school at first, and his family pushed him to go back, and he ends up going back, and he ends up graduating from Marquette because he had that full scholarship, and I'm happy he did that. Also, a lot of loose ends. They talk about a lot of loose ends in the movie. So, Agee went on that run. They came in, I think, 4th downstate. He ends up going to a community college, and then after his 2 years in a community college, he goes to Central Arkansas, where he eventually becomes a starter. So his hoop dreams ended after college because neither one of them made it to the NBA. But I guess they had an update too. William Gates had a bunch of kids. He became a preacher. Agee had a bunch of kids, and they both do a podcast today. I love that despite them not making the NBA, they still did something with their lives. They graduated college. They became good men, and it's not the happiest of endings. They didn't make it to the NBA. Like, that would have been like the ultimate ending of this movie, but it shows that the NBA is not for everybody, and not everybody's going to make it, but you can still be something without the NBA. Hoop Dreams is relevant today, in my opinion, because the names have changed, but the system hasn't changed. Kids are being told basketball is the way out still, and the pressure is even bigger today because you get NIL deals, you got the transfer portal, AAU basketball, social media, and high school rankings. All that shit is way more pressure than they had back then because there's so much money involved. These kids get like fucking a couple $1 million just to go to your school, and then you can transfer whatever you want. So people are still preying off these kids, trying to get them to make money. That's in all the sports: baseball, basketball, football especially. And the system is not great for poor black kids. They exploit our kids and want us to play their sports, and when they're not doing good, they just kick them to the side, and I hate that. I'm always a proponent of taking the money. I know college is good, but you can always go back to college. If you have an opportunity to make that money, I say fuck school. Like, I'm always a proponent of leaving early. You go to school to make money, to have a job. So I've never been one of those people that are down on people leaving school early. And I was a proponent of fucking the high school thing when they was doing kids from the NBA to high school. People didn't like it, but it's your choice as an adult to see where your skills can take you. That goes for any industry. So if you're fucking good at like tech or whatever, and you get offered like a 6-figure job out of high school, why go to college? Why even finish college if you're in college and you get offered that? So there's ups and downs and everything, but you can always go back to school. School is always going to be there. So I've always been a proponent of taking that money when you have the opportunity. If my kids played sports and they had an opportunity to be a top 20 draft pick in whatever sports, I would definitely tell them, fuck school, you can go to school later, make that money. Because that's generational wealth. You'll never know when you're going to get that money. Even the kids that came out of high school and they were bust, they got that first contract, and that money, that's some good money. Not everybody's going to be a superstar, but if you can make that money quick, you make that money quick, and then you can continue forward after that. My final verdict: Hoop Dreams isn't really about basketball. It's about hope. It's about poverty. It's about race. It's about opportunity. It's about what happens when a system builds kids up and then decides they are no longer useful. For me, Hoop Dreams isn't just one of the greatest basketball documentaries ever made. It's one of the best documentaries ever made. So my final question to you guys: did Hoop Dreams expose the system, or is it simply the reality of chasing a professional sports dream? That's all I got for this episode. If you haven't seen Hoop Dreams, definitely check it out. It is a fantastic documentary. I know a lot of people don't like documentaries, but it's not like a documentary that fucking shows you climate change and shit like that. It's actually a real story about real human beings, and it shows the system before we all knew what the system was, and how they traffic these kids into these programs and when they aren't what they think they are going to be, they just kick them to the curb. Thanks for watching. I truly enjoyed doing this. I hope there's listeners out there. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to follow me on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, it's Wair18. Just type that in, or Wair18Talks. Type that in, and you'll pull up my thing, and you can watch all my videos. You can buy merch. I got a merch shop link in the bio. Yeah, that's it. Have a good one, and I'll get at you guys next week. Later.